between Melbourne, between Victoria and Tasmania. Look at that leg side stumping. Darren Berry up to the medium pacer, Paul Rifle. Leg side stumping. Oh, sorry, mate. Is he a quickie, Moe?
Oh,
isn't that
fast medium?
That's exceptional work, isn't it? In anyone's books, that's unbelievable.
And the real beauty of Chucky is that there have been times where they set it up, but he does that because he backs himself to do that. It's not like nudge, nudge, wink, wink, fourth ball.
But we have got a man who was actually the substitute wicketkeeper on tour in 1997 at the Ashes when Adam Gilchrist went home injured. He was across in England as the relief keeper in the event that Ian Healy went down. So pretty close to conceivably playing Test cricket for Australia there. But a man universally regarded as one of the finest wicket keepers the game has ever seen, and a passionate St Kilda supporter. Chuck, Darren Berry, thanks for joining us.
No worries, Dasher. Probably the story of my life. I was the backup for Adam Gilchrist, and I've been the backup for Maxie Hudson tonight. So the theme continues. Late call up off the bench.
It's terrific that you've been able to honour that for us. But you've got a background as well. We are actually speaking to a former St Kilda player. You were down there in the mid '80s playing under 19s. We spoke to Nathan Burke last week, and he was playing under 19s in that same season.
He was actually. When I was playing in country Victoria, down your neck of the woods, Dash, in Wonthaggi, and I was invited down to practice. Long story short, and I remember the Garrett boys from Cranbourne, Chrissy and Paddy Garrett, who were very good footballers. I think Chris broke his leg in a reserves grand final. Some of your boys there, although you're a bit younger than me. Anyway, long story short, I finished up playing, I think, 3 matches on country permit. In the under-19s, and Nathan Burke was in that side. Stewie Lowe was the captain, but he'd already gone up to the seniors. I think Craig Davenport played in one of the games, and he was a superstar back then. A couple of other guys were Merriman. I think Gordon Fode might have been around from memory. So, look, it seems a long time ago now. I think it was 86. And I thought that I was, going places. And I remember hurting my ankle at Moorabbin one night towards the end of the year, and thought I was a chance to go up. And I heard John Beveridge, who was the recruiting manager. I heard him one day after one of my games in the under-19s, and he said something along the lines like this. He said, "I like the young kid from Wonthaggi. He's got really good hands." And then someone else said, "But by Christ, he's slow." And I'm not sure that suited Dash down at Moorabbin. I was sort of Greg Burns without the skill, but that was where my passion for the Saints was born, and I've followed them ever since. If the truth be told, Dash, as a young kid, my old man was a Fitzroy supporter, and he used to take me to the Junction Oval, ironically, the former home of the Saints. So as a young boy, I was Fitzroy, just because Dad followed. And then as a teenager, I sort of made my own choices, and playing at St Kilda in the 19s with all those guys, I then sort of moved across and been a Saint ever since.
Chuck, you mentioned overhearing that conversation with Johnny Beveridge, and obviously in the history of the St Kilda Footy Club, people who Johnny Beveridge rates are generally pretty good footy players. Was there any hope of making it pro with the club, or was kind of cricket it, and what happened there?
No, as a young kid, to be honest, footy was I played every sport in the country, as country kids do, but probably football, basketball and cricket were the 3 that I felt maybe I'd have a shot at. Footy was definitely number 1, and I've always said that. And the dream of playing, when I went to St Kilda, I was playing seniors in Wonthaggi when I was 15, and I always thought footy would be my go. But looking back now, I played those games at that year. I think it was 86 from memory. I should have had a look when you rang me. And then in the next season, I actually got selected in the Victorian and Australian under-19 teams. And from there, I got offered a scholarship to the Institute of Sport in Adelaide, where the Cricket Academy was based. It's now in Brisbane. So cricket almost chose me over football. And then, to be brutally honest, after those 3 country permit matches, I thought I did okay. I kicked a couple of goals against Carlton at Moorabbin. I remember Dean Gregg was actually playing for Hawthorn in the under-19s. I've got great memories of those, illustrious 3 matches. But I don't think St Kilda had the same aspirations on me as I had on them, to be brutally honest. And cricket chose me, and that was pretty much it.
So you were touted as basically being a little bit slow. There's no possibility that was actually due to the local showers that happened down there overnight, and knowing that under-19s generally played reasonably early on in the day, I'd assume it was actually quite wet at that point in the morning.
Yeah, no, it was. And I mean, it was hard work. But I mean, you look back now, and I always wonder, now I've got kids and they say, Dad, do you think you could have played? I mean, I love my footy, and, you know, I think my claim to fame back then was I was first ruck rover, and Nathan Burke changed with Berkey on the half-forward flank. Well, he went on to be a club legend, and what a legend he was, and I never played a game. So, you know, I'm one of those bloody what-if stories. I just don't really know. If I never made the cricket that off-season, would I have been invited back the next year? I don't know, but I don't remember getting a call from Johnny or from any of the coaches to say, hey, we really think you should choose footy. Whereas I played cricket with Robert Harvey at Fitzroy Doncaster when he's a bit younger than me, Bobby, and he was a very good cricketer. It'd be fair to say that the Saints were basically stopping him from playing cricket. That's a fair call because he is a champion. He's my favourite Saint. But they never did that with me, so I think the message is probably pretty strong. Too fat, too slow, go and stand behind the stumps.
One thing John Beveridge did say, though, was that you had very good hands, and your hands obviously carried you through that next phase of your career with the glove work. That 97 tour, I know it's sort of a bit of footy involved in that, but you and Shane Warne was obviously on that tour as another St Kilda supporter, and the Saints had that barnstorming run through the winter that led them towards the grand final. I imagine the Ashes series would have gone at least into August, sort of getting close to the finals. Can you recall much about, I mean, it's 97, we don't all have iPhones and iPads to watch games and live stream, but were you guys able to follow the Saints a little bit over there during that run, or even during other tours you've had overseas to places like India, etc.?
100%, Dash. We did, and Warnie and I were adamant about it to try and, you know, get hold of scores, and wherever we could get some footage. In England, they sort of had an AFL show once a week, and we made sure we watched that. I mean, Warnie and I were the ultimate nuff supporters, to be perfectly honest. But we always wore our Saints footy jumpers. Occasionally we'd have a cricket session. You're allowed to wear your footy jumper. And there was so that was with my brief stint with the Aussies. In the Victorian team, there was a lot of St Kilda supporters. David Saker, Warren Ayres, Simon O'Donnell, when I first started, was another former player down at the Saints. So there was a strong flavour, and I distinctly remember watching the 97 grand final, sadly. We were in Darwin on a pre-season trip, the Victorian cricket team, and at half-time and three-quarter time, you know, myself and David Saker and Warren Ayres were very excited, and we thought the drought was broken. And then, unfortunately, Darren Jarman stepped in and broke all our hearts. But I distinctly remember that being in Darwin in 97. And then I was in South Africa working as a cricket coach, ironically, then with the South Australian team when the horrible bounce happened to Stevie Milne. So, yeah, I've been overseas following a couple of times and watched the heartbreak. But as you know, Dash, now I commentate the footy. I really love the footy and I commentate the football. I've worked with you a little bit and been lucky enough to do a few of the Saints games this year, and I'm actually doing them this Thursday night against the Blues. I like what I see at the moment. I think we've got some real speed and it seems to be going in the right direction under Brett.
You often hear about athletes who play other sports, you know, often wearing colours of their footy club under, you know, whether it's jocks or socks or whatever. Did you ever sneak a red, white and black under your Vic uniform or anything like that?
Not on game day, I don't think I did. I never went that far. But we would regularly, you know, I had a Saints jumper and so did Warnie, and I had me, you know, under 19 socks that I kept. So occasionally we'd pull them out of practice, and especially if we had a win, you know, we'd pull them out of practice and run out onto the Junction Oval where the Vics were training back then when I was playing. So we'd do things like that. And, you know, we were pretty... One thing about St Kilda supporters, I mean, we've had a lot of pain and we haven't had a lot of success, ultimate success, I suppose, but the passion is strong. I reckon I've always seen that in all St Kilda supporters. And Warnie and I flew that flag, along with David Saker and Warren Ayres. There might have been one or two others I'm forgetting.
Dave Hussey.
Dave Hussey was at the end of my career, and yeah, he's another Saint. And now, obviously, Glenn Maxwell. I get a bit upset, Darren, every time they pick a St Kilda footy team of cricketers and other sportsmen. Once again, you know, they never pick a wicketkeeper, and I'm always left out of that. But Hussey and Maxwell and all those guys get in. They always forget about that little fat bloke that played 3 games in the under-19s in '86.
So, as you're saying, you've seen a few of the big games overseas, or in another venue or just going not being there, but what's a game that you go not being there as a commentator, as you say you're a commentator, but just as a fan where you've been able to let yourself go and it's just been a memory of a game that you go that is the favourite moment you've witnessed live or anything like that?
Yeah, good question. Hard one. But I suppose probably for the wrong reasons. The one that stands out is, as I said before, that 97 grand final in Darwin, because we had a day off to watch the final up there. And it'd be fair to say the Saints supporters, we were probably getting ahead of ourselves at half-time and three-quarter time. And we felt that this was it. And then when Jarman stormed over us, even people that weren't barracking for the Adelaide Crows, the rest of the Victorian squad became Adelaide Crows that day because Berry and Saker. I'm not remembering Warney being there, because he might have been away with the Aussies, but I remember Saker and myself carrying on like two bob watches at the Saints. And, you know, I had one of these around my neck, of course. Would have had that on. I don't think I had this at this stage. Me Rui 300, I don't reckon that was out. But we were carrying on like two bob watches, and we thought we had the flag. So that one probably, I can still remember it today, like it was yesterday, sadly.
Yeah, I was sitting at the top of the Great Southern Stand, unfortunately, that day as well. But you were the runner briefly. You had probably a disagreement of sorts with Grant Thomas in regards to commitments. Can you take us through that? I think, was that about the same time that Shane Warne was serving his suspension and was helping the Saints out a little bit, or is that maybe a different year to that?
You're testing my memory, Dash, but what I do know was towards the end of my career, so it was early 2000s. I'm not sure whether it coincided with Warney's ban, but it may well have done. Anyway, a friend through cricket was the actual runner for St Kilda. His name was Kent Hannam. I think he did it for a few years for the seniors. And he said to me that they needed a second runner. Was I interested for the Saints? And I said, yeah, bloody oath. It was towards the end of my career, so I thought it was a great opportunity in the off-season for fitness. And as I got older, my fitness probably started to wane a little. So I thought, well, what a great opportunity. So they invited me down, and I did quite a few pre-season training sessions. I remember going to Ballarat, North Ballarat. I reckon we played a practice match up there, and I ran up there. So I'd sort of done the pre-season. I was reasonably fit, ready to go as the second runner, if you like. And Grant Thomas was the coach. And as people know, I mean, Grant Thomas did a wonderful job, but he was pretty strong in what he believed in. And he asked me one day, I was actually doing the boundary line back then, Darren, just starting for Triple M. And I was the boundary rider. And Tomo must have got wind of it. And I said, yeah, I'm doing the boundary for Triple M. And he goes, oh, no, I'm not comfortable with that. Anyway, he sort of forgot about it. And we went on through pre-season. And I said, yeah, I'm going to be doing the boundary. Season starts, and I did round one against North Melbourne at the MCG. I remember it. I almost got caught inside 50, which would have been a free kick when they were kicking in. I had to run over the boundary line at the MCG. And it was a tougher job for, you have to be pretty fit to do that job. And Tomo was quite demanding. Anyway, the game finished, and Tomo said to me, Chuck, are you still doing that bloody Triple M stuff? And I said, yeah, I told you that. He said, no, you've got to make a decision. He said, it's either this mob or you do the media. And I was a bit taken aback, and I said to him, Tomo, I'm captain of the Victorian cricket team. What are you worried about? I'm not going to reveal any secrets. You have my 100% faith and trust, confidentiality, mate. There's no way anything that's said behind closed doors. No. He said, no one at my club will be involved in the media. And to be honest, I was pretty upset. He said, I'll give you 24 hours to think about it. Now, most runners were getting a little bit of pocket money. I didn't want any pocket money to be down at my Saints. What a privilege it was to be the runner for the team. And, Rui and Cozzy and Milne and all those guys I had a relationship with. Tomo said, I'll give you 24 hours to think about it, Dash. He rang me back the next day. I still remember where I was. I was living in Surrey Hills. He said, what's your decision? I said, Tomo, I can do both. He said, thanks, Chuck. See you later. That was it. I got the sack. Gone. I was pretty pissed off, to be honest. He's not on my Christmas card list, Grant Thomas, but I think he did a wonderful job as coach.
At least you got the one game, I guess.
One game. All pre-season for one game. I spent my whole life wanting to play for them, boys, and it wasn't quite good enough. And then I did a pre-season to do one match, and then I got the arse as well. So, again, it's probably the story of my life, to to be honest.
For a short fat bloke, did you drop a few kegs doing the footy pre-season for one game, or?
Yeah, absolutely, I did, and that was the main reason for it. The cricket. Like, I was getting older. I was early 30s. Actually, probably because I retired at 34. So I reckon it was in my last year, to be honest. And yeah, I lost a few kilos, and so it served a purpose in that respect. But I was pretty keen to do the season, and then I got chopped off at the knees. So I remember at the time I was bitterly disappointed. So come on, Tomo, what was going on there?
Do you get to many games these days at all, or do you got other jobs at the moment that are keeping you away from it a little bit, or what are you able to get there as a spectator and go? Well, obviously not at the moment. That's impossible for anyone.
Yeah.
But as a spectator, not calling the game, are you able to get yourself there at times?
Yeah, I go whenever I can, but I do call football on K-Rock for the Geelong station, the old 3GL K-Rock footy, and I tend to do 2 matches a weekend, so it does make it tough, and I've got a young family as well. But they're pretty kind. They try and roster me on to a lot of St Kilda games, so I'm sort of there working, but pretty lucky to be able to commentate. As I said, I did the game last week against Richmond. I did the Bulldogs match. I missed the Collingwood one, which was good. And then I'm on again this Thursday night to do the Blues match. So, I see them a bit in that role. And then if I've got a free game and there's a Sunday game at Marvel or something, I'll definitely go along. My oldest daughter's a St Kilda supporter, not as passionate as Dad. And then my middle daughter's Geelong. I don't know what happened there. She slipped through the cracks. And then I've got a 12-year-old son who's playing football down at Mount Martha, and they wear St Kilda colours. So that's a winner. But to break my heart, boys, I don't know how this could possibly ever happen. He barracks for Richmond. So that's devastating. I got bragging rights over the weekend, obviously. I was singing the song when I come through the door, and his words were, yeah, Dad, but you still haven't won a premiership in your lifetime, and I'm 12 years of age, and I've seen a couple already. So it'd be fair to say he had the last laugh, the little smart ass. He's only 12, and he's got the last laugh on me.
It's cutting. It's hurtful.
Hopefully on the back of that. But Chuck, thanks for jumping on. Hopefully soon the boundary rider restrictions are lifted across the competition, so I can get back to working alongside you, and they let a few more staff at games from AFL headquarters. But we might be a while off that, given the way everything's going at the moment. But it's great to speak to somebody that's obviously had a passion for the game. You're a superstar in your own sport as well. But thanks for jumping on and joining us.
No, thanks, boys, and fingers crossed. We're right up there this year. I think we're heading in the right direction, but we won't get too far ahead of ourselves like we did in '97. Love the Saints, and I'll be there commentating, and unbiased commentary, of course, Dash, on Thursday night when we give the Blues a bit of a pantsing.
Totally impartial. Thanks, mate.
Hey, boys.
Cheers, mate.